will come through. Thank you. I am having some issues with my... There we go. Is that coming through now?
Yes, it's visible.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Now, just so that you know, when I'm sharing screen now, I am no longer able to see anyone else for some reason. I apologize for the fact if I am not picking up on any cues that you are showing on the screen. So if you need to ask me any questions during this presentation, then please write them in the chat and I will attend to them after. So that's the thank yous. This is the agenda for today. First, we will introduce our team. Normally, we would also ask everyone else to introduce themselves, but I think that'd be quite the exercise with the number of people we have present. So we will move on to an introduction of Inspera as a company and what it is that we really do. After that, we will give you a product demonstration. You will see a selection of our solutions, how they're used in the flesh, so to speak. Robina will do that session and she will give us further information as to how we deal with questions and pauses and whatnot. And then at the very end, before we hand back to Learn, we will have a short Q&A. Again, if you have any questions for me during this presentation, then please feel free to just put them in the chat and we will attend to them as soon as possible. Perhaps, Pura, you could give us the pleasure of introducing yourself first.
Sure. Okay. Good day to everybody who's here. My name is Pura for short. I am the solutions engineer over at Inspera, particularly in Asia, and I'll be responsible for the demonstration later. So thank you so much for your time, everybody, and nice to meet all of you.
Ida, please.
Hi, my name is Noor Hidayah. Vanakkam. I'm here as a sales exec, helping Kim to bring the product here in Asia. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you, Ida. Now, I'm Kim. And as you can see, while my name is Asian, I am not. So I've recently relocated to Malaysia with my family to start the Asian HQ for Inspera. I'm not new to the company though. I've been around for quite some time. I started Inspera in Sweden on a license about 8.5 years ago. And I'm an equity partner in the business. And we've worked with many NRENs, particularly in the Nordics. And one of my, let's say, ambitions is to further the collaboration with NRENs the way we've done it in Europe, here in Asia. So particularly excited about this session, and thanks again to Prof. Roshan, Shashini, and the team for putting it together. Now, this is the Inspera heritage, and in the interest of not giving you too much information, I will focus on 3 of these boxes. The first one is that it is our birthday. Fittingly enough, I can see that Learn in your logo, you're celebrating your 35th. We are 10 years younger to the year. So about 25 years ago, almost to the day, if I'm not mistaken, now in September, Inspera was started in Norway. It originated as a tool built by the major publishers of the region to digitize their textbooks. About 5 or 6 years after, the Norwegian Directorate of Education tendered for a digital assessment solution. Inspera won, and since then we've been delivering all types of digital assessment, exams, coursework, assignments, and whatnot to the Scandinavian region, further through to Europe, to North America, and now to Asia. Now, there are 2 boxes here that I would like to, let's just say, dwell upon a little more. First and foremost, this. A digital platform needs to be available. If the platform's not up and running, under difficult conditions, it will not be able to serve its purpose. There's an American term, bells and whistles. So the fancy functionalities and capabilities of a platform. None of those matter unless the platform works. And that's particularly interesting in the context of ODL, or online distance learning. Now, the number of users and the number of submissions that puts a load on that platform is also important, because it doesn't matter if it works for 1,000 users concurrently, if you have 100,000. Inspera is built for scale. And the number of submissions we've had in the system over the last 12 months is over 8 million, divided by 4 million plus test takers worldwide. And while I don't like to brag, I have to say that this is actually quite impressive by industry standards. And the reason I chose to talk about these boxes today is in particular for the Asian context, where there might be challenges with connectivity, where there might be challenges with scale. People living in conditions that are less favorable in terms of infrastructure compared to Northern Europe. So again, the most important thing, the biggest takeaway is make sure that the platform you work with, it needs to work. Many of these logos you will recognize, some of them you won't. In Asia, we're quite new. We've been around here for about a year and a half, and we have customers in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. Not in an NRAN context, though. And that's what we want to change. So in the Nordic countries, where the NRANs play a central role in higher education, we have agreements with STICT, which is the Norwegian NRAN, and also with Studnet, the Swedish NRAN, that both are under NordUnet, which I know that Learn has a strong relationship with. For these two NRANs, we deliver a framework agreement where all the member institutions are able to order Inspera and use Inspera services through an umbrella. And that means that there is no individual procurement needed, that you have negotiated prices and services, quality assured by the NRAN. So why Inspera? Flexible assessment with integrity. It's no longer just about multiple choice questions. It's about much, much more. It's about numerous question types, flexible assessment formats, proctored, non-proctored, lockdown, non-lockdown. It's about applying the right levels of integrity in a scalable and modular fashion. So while Inspera is a software as a service solution, we still understand that one size doesn't fit all. So not only can we work with our institutions to customize the Inspera tenants, activate or deactivate functionality and capabilities, but we can also offer use of our digital ecosystem part by part. And we will show you what that means today. And last but not least, especially again in an NRAN type context, we thrive in a collaborative partnership. And that is the way that this company and our solutions have been built. We try to set up a community of specialists, subject matter experts, consisting of both academics and IT staff, even in our individual projects, but mainly on a, let's say, regional level. And that then feeds into the development efforts of Inspera and builds a product that suits you, your region, and your needs. So in terms of the higher education specific offering, we're not just looking at summative. You can use Inspera for summative, formative, and diagnostic. Coursework, tests, quizzes, exams, essentially any type of assessment that you're wanting to deliver. Authentic assessment assessment that matters for the particular subject and for the future of the student, connected also, of course, to employability. Various question types beyond multiple choices, like I said before, multimedia resources and external applications can be used. Marking and feedback done in familiar workflows, often based on Anglo heritage type education, but also to an extent, American style. Easily accessible in an intuitive interface that will make the marking process so much faster with less manual labor in each individual effort. Last but not least, a comprehensive suite of integrity tools ranging from AI, machine learning proctoring, to live proctoring, screen recording, audio recording, lockdown browser, and so forth. These customer stories I will just keep on the screen for a second or so, because we will share this presentation with you after. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on the technology today because we're more about pedagogy than technology, but there are a few hygiene factor things we need to go through. So Inspera works best and offers an elevated assessment experience when connected, when part of your infrastructure. So usually that means that our solutions are connected to your LMS and also at times to your student information system. And what this creates is a seamless landscape where you, your students, will be able to use the same credentials whenever you're logging in and using the services. You will have access to the solutions through your LMS. When you've graded, you'll be able to feed that data back into the LMS to have one single source of truth. And through the SIS, you will be able to potentially do enrollment and also to keep all of the student management, user management out of Inspera itself and just reflect the work that you're already doing. We, of course, also have API-based integrations. It doesn't all stop with LTI. Again, an example where I'm just going to stop on a slide for a second, but you can see what the APIs are capable of offering you here in terms of information. And of course, highly important, the system is built to provide privacy by design, fully in line with the European regulation on data privacy, GDPR. Now, Inspera offers a digital assessment ecosystem. And that sounds quite fancy, but it is a good way of describing what it is that we do. The core platform is here in the orange circle, Inspera Assessment. This is the home of the academic, where we author our questions and items or import them from our LMS. We design the assessments. And when I say design, that means the look and feel of the assessments on the student's device. We add the security layers. Do we need lockdown or not? We add proctoring. Do we want screen recording, audio recording? We add the accessibility protocols if we have students with special needs and so forth. We deliver the assessment to the students and we monitor them here. And once that's done, we also mark and give feedback. And as I mentioned before, once we've marked and given feedback, Inspera Assessment can then transfer that data into your LMS. Inspera Proctoring, the purple circle, has become very, very important. Inspera Proctoring is an umbrella because this is not just one single solution. It's actually 5 solutions. It's different types of proctoring, ranging from full machine learning and AI-based proctoring all the way up to human invigilated proctoring and everything in between. For the purpose of this demonstration today, we've decided to show you the most popular proctoring solution. That one is called Inspera Proctoring Resilience. And the reason we've chosen to show you that one is not only because it's the most popular, but also because it offers full offline resiliency. And that means that your students will be able to take an assessment remotely. And even though they might have internet connectivity issues, even if their internet actually goes down fully and does not come back up during the assessment, the proctoring session will continue and the students will be able to submit without you sacrificing on the academic integrity. And again, you will see that when Pura demonstrates the solution. If we've been wrong in our choice of proctoring solution, and there is another type of need profile, then we're more than happy to talk to you about the other proctoring solutions we have as well. Last but not least, the green circle. This is Inspera Originality. This is an advanced similarity and anti-plagiarism checker that also includes a very, very special algorithm for determining and predicting whether something has been generated by AI. So not only does it check similarity across one language or multiple languages, we can also help give you an advanced report with relevant insights as to whether a submission has been generated by AI or not. And the way that we do that is a two-pronged approach. The first part, which is checking against the most common large language models, which you might be doing today if you're using, let's say, Turnitin. That's fairly easy in terms of technology. But what we also do is that we use all of the historic context, all the submissions coming through our system to determine whether something is likely to have been written by a human. I can't give you all the details on that because it's proprietary. It's quite unique. I can also see that Ghana Christian is making a really nice drawing here on the screen. Loads of green lines popping up. But Inspera Originality can offer you a strong insight as to whether you need to worry about something having been generated by AI. And it will give you the power and the ammunition you need to be able to make correct academic misconduct decisions. Now, this is very new. So I'm not saying that it is better than anything that's out there. Only the market can decide that. But we're seeing traction here. And we think that we're onto something. We really do. That's it for now. Thank you very much. Normally, I will continue a little bit longer, but I think it's time for us to start the most important part of our presentation, which is the actual product demonstration. I'm going to stop sharing now and see if there are any questions. It looks like there are a few. Nope, those were just comments. Do we have any questions on the materials I've shown here now? I'll take that as a no. And I will hand over to you, Pura. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Okay. So let me quickly just share my screen before I start. Okay. All right then. Okay. I hope everybody's able to see my screen. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up from Ida. That should be good. So what I'll be showcasing today is the 3 solutions Kim was talking about: Inspera Assessment, Inspera Resilience Proctoring, and as well as Inspera Originality. And in terms of question, I think it would be the same as Kim because it's a huge crowd today. Usually I stop as per the module I go through, but if you do have any questions, just pop them on the chat box, and Kim or Ida would be helped to assist with any of the questions. And then if you do have any questions you really want to discuss, we can keep them towards our Q&A at the end of the demo. So I will start off with Inspera Assessment. So that would be from a student's point of view, and as well as the admin side and the admin experience per se. So I'll be just logging in as a student for now to show you how the platform would look like. So I'm using a one-time username and password for this demo, but of course, SSO integration will also be available at this stage as well. So once they've put in their credential, they will just click log in. Right, and that will bring them to what we call our student dashboard. So this is where, as a student, I'll be able to see the assessment that has been allocated to me, the titles of the assessment, as well as the test window, at what point the test starts, at what point the test closes, and if it's a timed assessment, I will also know how much time I have within those test windows to complete my assessment. Once I'm done with that, I will just click here to get ready. And this will bring me to the final screen before I commence with the assessment. So it will display the same information as we saw earlier, but this is with addition of any test information. So here I've put in a fit to sit declaration as an example, but this page is highly customizable to any information you want the students to go through before they commence with the assessment. So once I'm done with this, I will just click Start Test. And now we are within the assessment platform. So before I move on to the types of questions and further, I would just like to bring you around the interface that we're looking at right now. So on the top left, we have the candidate ID and the candidate details. Below is the timer, which counts down minute by minute until the last 5 minutes. And then it will then start to count down in seconds as well. On the top right here, we have a couple of candidate options available. So this is where, for an example, they'll be able to change their contrast. They also have the availability to toggle between their text sizes. So if you do have students with disabilities, this would be really handy, as they'd be able to configure this by themselves whilst they're within the assessment. Next would be our Wi-Fi symbol here. So Inspera is designed to work both online and offline. So of course, students will need to be online to log in and start. However, if their connection is disrupted midway through the assessment, they would still be able to continue. This is because when the assessment starts, all the test information is downloaded locally to their device. So this ensures that they can still continue to work even if connection is lost. If connection resumes midway through the assessment, all the progress will just automatically sync in the background towards our server. However, if they do get to the end of the assessment and connection has still not been restored, they have 2 options. First option is, if the students are allowed to use their mobile phones, they can use the hotspot feature on their mobile devices and connect to another Wi-Fi connection. The second option is they can download their submission as a file. So what this means is, it will download an encrypted file onto their local device. So this will prevent the students from making any changes. But what they can do is send this over to a planner or an invigilator who will be able to upload the encrypted file onto our platform. And what that will do is it will just sync all of their responses along with any relevant metadata that's associated with their submission. So it would be as if there was no internet issues to start off with. All right, and then next, I'm going to bring your attention over to this, what we call our resource tab. So this is where you'd be able to attach PDFs or websites as resources. So this includes web pages, websites, PDFs, documents, which can be safely accessed during an assessment. So these resources are available for the students who are not even using the locked on browser per se. So there is a network filter that ensures that the students can only view the specified pages, blocking any other links as well, so that they will only be able to view the page that you have attached towards the assessment. All right, so moving on, I've included a video with pre-exam reminders. So this video is optional and can be added at the beginning of an assessment if you choose to. I've just provided this for this demo purpose. So I'm just going to play this and we can have a look at it.
I'm here to guide you through some important reminders before you start for exam. First, let's talk about the fit to sit declaration. Better that goes. That rule to avoid these. If you experience any discomfort, continue your exam without losing any progress. Just stay calm and keep going. Good luck on your exam. Do your best. Stay focused. And remember, you've got this.
All right. So now we can move on to the types of questions available. So we currently offer 25 different question types, but I'm not going to go through them all. To give you an idea, I've included the most frequently used question types within higher education. So first we have our multiple choice question. Next, we have true or false. This is our inline choices, which are basically drop downs. We have text entry, so candidates can answer this question by filling in a word or a short sentence in the blank field that's provided. So this field can be placed at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of the question text, depending on your requirement. Next, we have our hotspot question type. So this question type is where candidates select the correct answers by clicking on a point or the area within an illustration. So provided on the instructions as per se. So when a candidate clicks on the image, a cross appears. And if they are, maybe they want to change the placement of it, they would just need to click on it and then click somewhere else. So you can provide how many fields it would actually detect. Next, we have our matching and pairing question type. So this is where students connect values, expression, places, or other items to their respective categories. This is our graphic gap match. This is a question type where students can drag items. The items that I've placed today are text, but we can also have rich text, math equations in latex if you prefer, images as well. So the students will just need to drag those into their respective fields, as per se. Next, we have our math working question. So this is where it allows students to show their calculation step by step. We have 2 mathematical palettes that will be available for the students to use whilst in the assessment. They'd be able to duplicate rows if they want to and add rows. Of course, they'd also be allowed to delete them if they no longer need it. Next, we have our numerical stimulation question. So this is one of our newest addition. So how it works is it randomly generates values within the question. So as you can see, there are a couple of bold values here. I've set a parameter as to what I want the lowest number to be and what I want the highest it can possibly be, and also the intervals in between. So each time this question is generated for a student, it will randomly generate a value within those parameters. And because it's based on a core mathematical principle, the answer will be different for each student. Also adding on, for questions requiring multiple response, where each response depends on the previous one, the error carry forward feature that we have allows candidates to earn partial marks. So even if their initial answer is wrong. So if the subsequent answers are mathematically correct using the previous incorrect value, they are still awarded accordingly. So that is one feature. So I find this a really effective question type because it can be used across any faculty that involves calculation. You only need to create this question once, and students can work through it multiple times. And if cheating is a concern, this approach reduces that risk, as each student will receive the same question, but with different values. Moving on, we have our symbolic math question type. So this question type allows for programmatical, generated, and automatically graded responses where candidate can answer with numeric values or algebraic equations. So it shares the core concept with numerical stimulation, as the variables and the logic are defined within the question's program model. However, unlike numerical stimulation, symbolic math allows candidates to provide answers in the form of equations as well, so which are also automatically checked and evaluated. Right. Next, we have our programming question type. So this is where students can write code in a designated programming language using an editor that's designed for coding. So in Inspera, we support 40 to 60 different types of programming languages. The editor features lines, numbers, and syntax highlighting tailored to the selected language. So here's just an example of a Python question. All right, next we have our audio record. So candidates can record their answers directly into the question and listen to their recording before submission. So to just give you an example here, if I'm recording something now, I'd be able to hear it whilst I'm in the assessment. And if I'm not satisfied with those recordings, I can just click on the microphone icon again and I would be able to record a new set of recording. Next, we have our upload assignment question type. So here is where students can upload files as part of their responses. So by default, it will accept all type of files up to a maximum size of 1 gig, but you can also limit the file type at the authoring stage. So for an example, if you only want to accept PDFs, that can be an option. Next, we have our essay type questions. So here you can see the students have a mini word processor that's on screen where they can control text size, text decoration, insert tables. Candidates have the opportunity to also use formatting such as latex, special symbols, and mathematical symbols as well. So this question type also has options as an author to set a limit of a maximum number of words, allow candidates to see how many words they've written so far, enable spell checkers, and expand. You can also expand the writing area here in full screen. Just going to show you an example of how that will look like. There we go. So as you can see here, I've attached a rubric within this question type. So this is where the students will be able to open this rubric to have as a reference when they are responding to an essay type question. So the rubrics can be attached to any question type if you prefer. So I've just attached it in this essay question type to just show you an example of how that will look like. Moving on, I've also created questions in Tamil and Sinhala to showcase our authoring capabilities. Although the interface will remain in English, students will be able to respond in either Tamil or Sinhala if you require. Additionally, the feedbacks from graders can also be provided in Tamil or in Sinhala. All right, so as part of our demo today, I'll be highlighting a use case, a famous use case per se, where students can also use AI tools such as ChatGPT to assist with their essay questions. So while using these tools, students' screen, of course, will be recorded to ensure academic integrity. To help illustrate this better, I've created a video that will outline how students can utilize AI tools effectively while being mindful of the screen recording that's on. So I'm going to quickly play this.
Hello, students. Welcome to your essay exam on Inspera. I'm here to guide you through the instructions. First, you'll have the options to use the AI tools for furthering this exam. Feel free to interact with the generate ideas, track concepts, or explore different perspectives. Remember, the AI tool is here to assist you, but your critical thinking and unique insights are what really matter. Use your steps often, which means your screen will be recorded throughout the entire process. Review your screen recording to ensure that everything is in line with the yes, and do your best work. Good luck. I'm confident you'll do great. Remember to stay calm, think critically, and make the most of the resources available to you. Be writing.
All right. So that's just an example of how you can put instructions on. So it's just not limited to only videos or YouTube. You can also add instructions in a form of text, document, PDF that will be set on the left-hand side of the screen. So it's also possible for you to group questions so that they appear together on a single page on a vertical layout as well. Because for now, I've been showing you one question per screen. So this layout can also be an option. And moving forward, I'm just going to be showing you also demonstrating how stimulus and multimedia can be used within the questions. So starting off first, I have a question where I've added an image. So we support JPGs, GIFs, and PNG formats as well. Here I've added in an embedded code. So I've attached a YouTube video with an essay question. There's also possibilities for you to even add Pinocchio recordings if you require. Right. So next we have the audio clip feature. So this allows authors to include multiple music and sound clips in any question type. You have the options of having a set of number of playbacks, 1 to 6, or even unlimited. You can choose between a standard or a basic skin. So the standard skin will allow the students to pause and have unlimited playbacks. The candidates can can click on the playback progress bar, as you can see here, to change the position. So I'm just going to show you an example of how that will look like.
Welcome. Today, bringing more.
So yes. Whereas the basic skin, when you see below that, it will remove the possibility to change the position, and the candidates only allowed to pause and unpause. So the next feature here is where you can also add video clips. So they are added the same way as the audio clips as you saw earlier. They can have a standard skin as well as a basic skin if you require. You also have the options of adding PDFs, attaching it within the question type. The students are always free to resize this to their likings. Can resize it. They are able to zoom in, zoom out if they want to as well. And this can be attached to any question type per se as well. And that finally brings me to our candidate selected question type. So this is where candidates see a range of questions, but they will only need to answer. For an example, for this demo, the students are required to only answer one question. So here I have 3 questions I can decide on. So as a candidate, if I were to click on this, by default, both the questions at the bottom here would be a no. But anytime before submitting, they can always change their mind and maybe attempt another question instead. So that option is available to them. There we go. So this would be the final screen that they will be seeing before hitting submit. And before I move on, I would just like to bring your attention to the blue lines that are hovering against the navigation bar. So these blue lines just indicate to the students on the questions they have attempted and completed. So this is sort of a prompting mechanism for them so that they know that they've completed all their questions before hitting submit. So this is the submitted screen. So there are many options as to how this screen appears. For this demo purpose, I've just included the fit to sit declaration again, but you can enable it maybe for the students to view their submissions, get their results instantly for all automatically marked questions. Students can also view generated feedback for each question. So this page is also highly customizable. So once I'm done, I would just log out. So that was Inspera assessment from a student's point of view. Now we're quickly logging in as an admin to show you what admin functionalities we have within the platform. All right. So once you log in, you'd be able to see a clear dashboard and log events of what is happening within your tenancy. But for today's demo, we'd be looking into our 4 main modules. We'll start off with author first. So the author module is where we author out the questions, bring them together, which will eventually become a deliverable assessment. The author module in Inspera makes it easy to create engaging digital assessments. You can design a variety of question types, as you saw earlier, add multimedia, and organize content efficiently, ensuring high quality interactive exams that cater to different learning styles. So in terms of authoring questions, you have 2 types. Questions is where you author them individually, which will then be added into our question bank. However, if you're authoring them with an assessment in mind, you can build them directly within the question set, which is what we'll be looking into today. So I'm going to go ahead and give my question set a title. Just going to call it my test. And then now we can move on to adding the questions. So you have 3 options to add questions. The first one is you can create a new question. You can design and add a completely new question directly within Inspera. The second option, as Kim mentioned earlier, you can import it from your LMS. So if you have pre-authored question sets in your LMS, you can import them directly within Inspera using a QTI format without needing to actually manually reauthor them again within our platform. And the third way is for you to export them from our question bank. So I'm going to quickly open up our question bank here. So you can export previously authored question into your question set. And this is how our question bank will look like. You can filter them by question types, if you've attached any labels to them. And if the tenancy that you're using currently has multiple users, you can also filter them by your users as well. But of course, to make this an interesting demo today, I'm going to be creating a question from scratch. So we'll be looking into an MCQ question. But when you click Create New, you'll be viewing all our question types. They'll be grouped up into automatically marked, manually marked, and not marked. So we'll just quickly click on a multiple choice question today. All right, so here I am within the authoring interface. And the important thing to remember is within Inspera, the authoring interface is largely the same, irrespective of which question type you choose. It will always be the same 4 fundamental areas. On the top left, it will always be the question title. In the middle here, it would be your question authoring area. On the right here would be the question settings, and in the middle here would be the question type specific areas. So this is where when you click on it, it will expand the settings on the right where you can fill out your alternatives. There we go. All right, so once you've actually filled these alternatives up, and to also bring your attention, they are just not based on text. You can add alternatives in latex. If you want to add alternatives as audio clips, as images, you can also, that's also possible within our platform. And once you've filled all of this up, if you would like to view this from a student's point of view, you would just click on this eye icon right up here. And you'll be able to view this question exactly from a student's point of view, with the added advantage of check answer to just make sure that you've in fact put in the correct answer as the correct response. Moving back to the question settings, I'm just going to go through the question settings. So this is where you can allocate marks. So this is where you can put marks for correct response, incorrect response. Will there be any penalties if they don't answer it? We have feedback. So this is where you can add pre-authored feedbacks that can be released to the candidate at any time after the point of submission. These are main illustrations. So this is where you can add embed quotes within the question, for an example, Pinocto or YouTube recordings. PDF panel is where you'd be able to display a PDF as a stimulus to the left-hand side of the question. Labels here is just a way of adding metadata to the question so that it'd be easier for you to find this particular question in our question bank later. So that we've done an MCQ question, and to just prove my point, I'm just going to open up a manually marked question here. And as you can see, the interface remains the same, but of course, for a manually marked question, the marking systems will differ. So in Inspera, we have three main marking systems. We have maximum mark first, which is a simple 0 to X scale. We have criteria. So these are fixed mark criteria where the author adds as many criteria as they want, and the marks would be granted if they're met. So they will appear as check boxes to the grader. So we'll touch base on this when we move on to the grade module later. And then finally, we have rubrics. So this is a way where you can add your own rubrics to the question. I'm just going to quickly open up where you'd be able to create a new rubric within our platform. All right, so here's where you can customize your rubric in terms of the criteria, the points, the descriptions, and the level of performances. And your options are for them to be in point base, point range if you want to. They also have percentage range, and of course, qualitative and mark qualitative as well. And the best part about this is once you've actually filled this up to your likings, you can save them as a template and then reuse them for your future assessments as well. Right. So I'm done with questions. I'm not going to go more into different types of questions, but what I'm going to do is show off more of what other functionalities we have available within a question set. So for that, I'm just going to open up a question set that I already authored previously. There we go. All right, so a section cannot only help with the general structure, but they also affect how the assessment is both displayed and delivered to the candidates. So to just give you an idea of what's available, you can name your sections if you want to. You can delete them if you no longer need them. You have the option to reorder them. And the two icons here relate to how the questions within the section are delivered to the students and how they're laid out. So this would be the section layout. So this is where you can decide if you want one question per screen, if you want the students to scroll through the questions vertically, would you want to add or attach any stimulus across all question types? All that can be done here. And quickly going back to this is our reordering icon. So reordering relates to how you want the questions within that section to be delivered to your students. So by default, the questions in this section appear to the candidates in the order they are authored or set. So it's possible for you to randomize the questions so that all these questions within this section are displayed in a random order for each candidate. We have the pull option. So this is where it will randomly select, for an example here, 4 questions out of all 8 here to be displayed to the candidates. And then, of course, we have our candidate selected question type. So this is where the candidates will see all 8 questions, but they'll be required to only answer 4. So randomization, pulling, and candidate selected question help maintain academic integrity by reducing opportunities for cheating and ensuring a fair assessment for all students. So that's what's available from a sections point of view. And these are some of the features that are available when it comes to authoring out your assessment and how you want it to lay out. So next, we're going to quickly look at our deliver module. Let me quickly open this up. There we go. So the deliver is the administrative heart of Inspera. It's where a question set becomes an assessment. It's where an assessment is scheduled. It's where all the users from your institutions are added to their relevant roles. So it's where all different options are also set, which affect how the assessment appears to the candidate and what features are enabled for them. So you will start off with the setup stage. So this is where you can give your test a name. This is where you can attach your respective question set within the assessment. This is where you can also set up your test windows. At what point would it open? Would it be open for a week, for 2 weeks, maybe for a couple of hours? If it's a timed assessment, this is where you can allocate that time as well. This is where you'll be able to add test information. So as you saw previously, I've added in a fit to sit declaration. So here's where you can add those informations in. In terms of candidates, you can add them individually. We have CSV upload. There's also API and LTI integrations options too. Committees here. To just give you an idea of what committees are, it's basically grouping candidates along with graders that are tasked with grading those submission. So for an example, if I have 100 candidates and I have 4 graders, each grader would be in a committee and each committee is allocated 25 students. So now each grader can view and grade the 25 candidates that has been allocated to them. Right. So below here, we have a couple of options. Basically our settings. I'm not going to go in depth. I'm just going to give you a rough idea of what each of them are. So the general settings, one of them of whether you want to enable auto submissions or not. In terms of security, so these settings relate to when you use our proctoring features and our Inspera originality solutions. We have exam day. So exam day settings affect the candidate's experience. For an example, do you want to enable spell checkers? Do you want to enable text-to-speech reading aid? And then we have after test. So after test is settings that control what happened after the candidate has submitted. Do you want them to review what they've submitted? Do you want them to see the results of all automatically marked questions or maybe feedbacks that's written by the authors? All that can be set up here. And then importantly, we have our grading workflow here. So grading workflow are basically setups, whether you want to maybe have a private grading, a double-blind grading. So in terms of private and double-blind gradings, the grader will work individually in the first step of the grading progress. The marks and the grades are then set as private to the grader until the grader has confirmed on his own grades. The grades will then be shared with other co-graders. And then we have collaborative grading. So to just walk you through the concept of collaborative grading, or what we call it as shared marking within Inspera, collaborative grading is designed to enhance the evaluation process by allowing multiple graders to work together on assessing the student submission. So collaborative grading in Inspera allows a team of graders to assess and provide feedback on the assessment or the exams together. So this approach helps to ensure a more comprehensive, or a more fair evaluation of each submission. So first, we will assign a group of graders to the assessment. This can be done based on the types of the assessment or a specific section of the test. For an example, you might want to assign all the essay questions to a particular set of graders. So once these graders are assigned, they all have access to the same submission. This shared access allows each grader to view and interact with the marks and feedback provided by other graders. So each grader would evaluate and the submissions independently. As they enter their marks and feedback, the system will update and integrate these inputs. So depending on the setup, the final grade might be an average of all marks, or if it might involve a decision between all of the graders through a discussion as well. So if there are any discrepancies or differing opinions, graders can discuss their evaluation directly within the platform, and this collaborative discussion ensures that the final grade is well-rounded. So graders can also review their marks, feedbacks based on the discussion, or add additional reviews to ensure fairness and accuracy in the final grading. All right, and then we have explanation of grades. So explanation of grades are just submission level feedback. Here you control the administration of that feedback. So of course, whenever you are delivering assessment, you don't need to be going through the settings each time. You can always set up an assessment, save them as a template. So here you would see that I have a series of templates. I'm just going to open up a deliver template here. So it's possible for you to select as many or as few options as you require, save them as a template, and then reuse that for your future assessment. So of course, this is extremely common because most institutions will have standardized settings for each type of assessment. So this template feature is really helpful. So as you'll be able to see in a second, most of the details will already be pre-filled for me. There we go. So most of the informations are already pre-filled here. So once you're done with the setup, you will just move on to design. So design is another list of checkboxes. So these control the options available to the candidates. So as you can see on your right-hand side here, maybe you would like to add a warning navigating if the students may navigate to a question without completing the previous question. This is where you'd be able to decide if you want to attach a rubric to a question type, maybe hide the navigation bar, make it a one-way navigation instead. So you can go through all of these design settings. Once you're done with design, you would move on to assessment settings. So this would basically allow marks to be converted into grades. So we have many options of grade scale available here. I'm just going to select A to F. And then you can also attach the thresholds for each of these grade scales. What would allocate a A, what would allocate a B, and so forth. Once you're done with the assessment, when you move on to confirm, this is where the assessment is activated. So it's possible for you to deactivate the test if you perhaps made an error on the setup or the design stage. Edit what you have to, and then reactivate the assessment at any point up until a candidate has started the assessment. So from that point onwards, any settings that would affect the integrity of that assessment would mainly be on lockdown. So this is from a deliver module perspective. I'm going to quickly move on to monitor. Right. So monitor is all about seeing candidate engagement. It allows you to get a live insight into the candidate's progress and status. So there are a lot of columns that can be enabled in monitor. If you were to click on the columns, you can add more information if you want to. But by default, this is what you'll be able to see. And these include their ID details, their status, when were they online, or when were they last online, all that can be viewed there. You'd be able to see their progress. You'd be most importantly able to see any warning. So this is where you'd be able to see if any students have had any network difficulties or disruptions, all that would be listed here. Of course, all the way through how much time they spent within the assessment, when did they last submit the assessment as well. Other features for invigilators when they're invigilating an exam, you have options of sending a one-way message to a candidate. You have a pause option. So what this does is it will pause a progress to the assessment. A big pause button will appear on the screen in the place of the assessment. And once the candidate has been unpaused, any time that's lost during that pause will be recredited back to them. You can enable spell checkers as well. You can open for resubmission, perhaps if a candidate has submitted in error. You will be able to award extra time if you want to. If, let's say, they had any network issues and times were lost, you can award them through the monitor module. You can take attendings. You can flag certain students if you want to. You can take ID confirmations as well. So these are all the capabilities that you'd be able to do within our monitor module whilst an assessment is in flight. And that brings me to our final grade module here. I'm going to open up the grade module. There we go. All right. So the grade module is used by two different user roles, namely the planner and the grader. So I'm going to be wearing two hats today, both the planner and the grader. So we'll be looking at the planner role first. So the planner role is a predominantly a read-only workspace, allowing the planner to get an overview of the status of the marking and the grading. So as a planner, for now, I'll be able to see graders from Committee A have all finished their papers, whereas Committee B has only completed one paper so far. So this is an overview as a planner that I'll be able to see. Now, moving on to the grader, I'm just going to be a grader from Committee B. There we go. All right, so the grader workspace is very similar to the planner, except they will only see candidates that has been allocated to them. So as you see here, I have 4 candidates that has been allocated to me. And now we are going to move on to the marking process of these. So a quick brief of the interface. The response area would be here, and the marking area would be on my right-hand side here. So if it's an automatically marked question, it will already be marked, but we have an override option here where you'd be able to grant a mark if you need to or if you require to. So as an example, there we go. So there is an option for you to override. And once you're done, you can choose how you would like to navigate next. Would you want to navigate by candidates or would you want to navigate by questions? So clicking the up and down button here, you'd be able to navigate through candidates. And using the left and right button here, you'd be able to navigate through questions. So the next 3 questions that I'm going to show you is just to showcase how our marking system works for manually marked question. So the first essay question here is in terms of a maximum mark. So this is where you'd be able to go through the essay and award a respective mark. The next one here is our fixed mark criteria. So as explained earlier, it would appear as checkboxes to the grader. So if these criteria are met, the grader would just have to tick on them and the points or marks will be granted automatically. And the final question here is in terms of a rubric. So you can use a rubric to mark within a rubric per se. So if I were to click on this, I'd be able to leave a mark and also be able to leave a feedback here. So I've attached a feedback here as explained. You can attach a feedback in English and Tamil if you want to, in Sinhala, depending on any languages you want to, you'd be able to leave those feedbacks for the students to go through once all of their marks are out. Right. So that's in terms of the marking systems. And in terms of feedback, we have 2 options. We have annotations and we have pages. In terms of annotations is where you leave a feedback to a specific part of the response. So you can just leave a feedback here. If you would like to leave a feedback for the entire response, you would just go over to the page notes and then leave a feedback here instead. So that is in terms of feedback. Next, we're going to move on to explanations down here. Right. All right, I'm just gonna scroll this a bit to the corner. All right, so explanation. So this is where graders can send explanation of grades to the candidates. You can write explanations from scratch, or if you add any private notes previously, you can attach them within here. So explanations can be edited by all graders in the committee, or if committees are not used, all graders are allowed to do this. The explanations are not private to the graders. So when a grader creates or updates an explanation, the grader's name, the time of the last change will be added and visible for all other graders within the assessment. So the explanation of grades feature makes it possible to write or even record your explanations here. So if I were to just click on this, I'd be able to record an explanation for the student, and then they'd be able to hear this once the student report is out. Or to save this, I can leave a title for the explanation or the recording here, and it will be saved within the assessment. Right, so if we just quickly jump back onto the overview, you'd be able to see that I've already marked a paper. So once you've finished all of your markings, you'd also be able to see a progress bar here in terms of all your papers. And once they are 100%, you'll be able to actually confirm. And if Inspera assessment is integrated with your LMS, once you've confirmed your grades here, all your grades and feedbacks will be imported to your LMS, where they'll be able to view their grades on their LMS platform as well. Right. So that's in terms of grade, and I am done with Inspera assessment. I'm going to now move on to Inspera Proctoring. So let me just quickly change my screen here. All right. I hope everybody's able to see a purple screen. All right, so now we're going to move on to Inspera Resilience Proctoring, which is one of our remote proctoring solutions. So by its very nature, I'm not able to demonstrate this in real time, or else it will kick me out of this meeting because of the very nature of a lockdown browser. So instead, I actually made a video from a student's experience, and then we'll jump in and have a look at how these proctored recordings look like. Importantly, when I recorded this, I did it using our open mode security setting, which actually allows you to use third-party applications as well. So that's how I was able to record the screen of this. We have a few mode options available when it comes to our Inspera integrated browser. We have an open mode. So this mode does not lock down the assessment. Instead, it allows candidates to use and access their computer as per normal. Open mode has fairly limited use unless it's used in conjunction with Inspera Proctoring. Of course, we have a strict mode setup. So this mode does lock down the machine. The candidates will not be able to access any additional applications or computer functionalities until they've submitted or exited the assessment entirely. So I'm going to quickly play my recording here. So what will happen is the students will open up our Inspera Integrity Browser application. And it will go through a series of checks, as you can see here. So this will be checking things if they're using the most up-to-date tenancy, as well as other things that are customizable, such as power state checks, things like if the student is plugged into mains or are they battery powered. So you can make this decision yourself. If you think this list is a bit extensive, you can customize it too. And it will go through all the way of checking if there are any additional monitors attached. And the important thing is only if all of the system checks are passed, they'll be able to move on to the next stage. So if one of these fails, the system itself will advise the students what they need to do. So if there are additional monitors attached, the system will advise that there are additional monitors attached, you should unplug it and then retry it again. So once it's done with these system checks, it will then move on to the login page. So of course, SSO integration is also available with this as well. But for this demo purpose, I'm just using a one-time username and password. Next stage is where the students will just need to select which assessment it relates to them. And once they've selected that, they will just need to enter in a PIN code that you would have set up at the deliver phase. And that will then unlock the assessment and work out what other checks that need to take place. So also to just point out here, if it's just a lockdown test only, from this screen onwards, it will move straight to the start test screen. However, if there's going to be remote proctoring involved, there are just another couple of checks that need to go through first. One of which would be to check if the students have enough available disk space. And the reason for that is the system will record the proctored data in chunks of 3 minutes, and then it will sync with our server. It will record 3 minutes, and then it will keep doing that. So if the student loses network connectivity midway through the assessment, it's okay. Because all that will happen is that proctoring data will be saved locally onto their device up until a point they get their internet back, in which case it will just start to sync with our server. Even if they've clicked submit, they will still be able to leave a small window open on the screen. They will get full access back to their machine. It won't be doing any more recording, but it will just be waiting for the internet connection to be restored. It's not memory hungry though. It's about 75 megabytes per hour of recording. So that's all it's doing. It's just checking and making sure that's enough disk space there. Of course, it will also go through file upload capabilities and screen capture as well. Once that's done, it will then go through the hardware checks. So after a couple of seconds, you will just need to, the students will need to check select on their camera and their microphone. They will just need to speak a little so that you can detect that the audio is being detected. Once that's done, they'll be able to move next. And the next is the photo stage here. So students will need to take a photo of their face, and this will be used as a reference point for the duration of the assessment. So if this person were to suddenly disappear and someone else were to come in and probably aid with their exams or assessment, it will do a quick facial recognition check to make sure it's in fact the same student who was there from the start all the way through the end of the assessment. And the final stage here would be the ID stage. So this is where students will just need to bring and hold up their ID onto the screen. And it will also do a quick facial recognition check between the photo we took earlier and the photo that's on the ID to see if it matches. Right. Once the ID is done, the screen will then go full screen and they will start the assessment. It will just be like a normal Inspera assessment test. As you would be able to see, the interface will remain the same from here on in. There we go. So they'll be able to start with the assessment. So to just bring your attention to the end of the screen here. So the only thing that's different is at the very end, instead of it being a browser window, the students will just need to click exit application to quit out. So this is the small window I was mentioning about earlier, the small do not close window. So this is where it will just need to sync any outstanding proctoring chunks with our server and in real time. It takes about 5 to 10 seconds if the internet is being good thus far. They will just need to leave this window open in the background and it will automatically close once all the proctoring data has been synced. So this is from a student's point of view. I'm going to quickly jump onto the admin side to show you how those proctoring data look like. All right, I hope everybody is able to see the screen changing here. So if you were to open up monitor module again, so that is where you'd be able to see your proctoring data. As you can see here, we can see that the proctored recording is on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is the full screen recording, and you might not be able to hear it, but there's also audio in the room that's being captured as well. So along the timeline here, you'll be able to notice a bunch of lines. So these are notable events that has been flagged throughout the assessment. So I'm just going to quickly play this to give you an idea. So this is where I've actually moved away from the screen. And then when I actually do return back, re-entering the frame, it will do a quick facial recognition check and then flag it as green. So it will detect if I leave the frame. So anytime my face were to disappear within the screen, it will do a quick facial recognition check to make sure it's in fact the same person that's re-entering the frame again. So now I would like to bring your attention to the screen recording here. So you'd be able to see that I was able to leave the exam screen. So it will do a flag check for application switched event. And to just remind you again, I was able to do and leave the assessment screen because the exam setup was in an open mode. If I was in a strict mode, I will not be able to leave the assessment at all. So of course, you don't have to be scrubbing through this timeline each time. All of those event flags are actually summarized for you in our events tab. From the start of the exam until all the way to the application switched events, there will be a screenshot for each time as a flagged event, and you'll be able to view where the students have traveled even outside of the assessment. It will do a screen capture for you. So that is a quick walkthrough within our proctoring capabilities when it comes to Inspera Resilience Proctoring. So we're done with our Inspera Proctoring. Now we are going to finally move on to our last solution, which is Inspera Originality. Right. So as explained earlier, Inspera Originality is our plagiarism detection tool. In addition of checking similarities, it also goes through checking if any submissions are also written by AI. So to give you an example, once you log in, you'd be able to see a quick dashboard of all these submissions that are within your tenancy, and those are also filtered in what we call high level of plagiarism, medium, and low. I've opened up a couple of reports to show you today. But before that, I would just like to also bring your attention down to this quick overview you'd be able to get, as well as the quick report percentage here as well. So in terms of the document language, if you are going to be cross-checking your documents with any other languages, that's also possible. If you've opened up AI authorship to check if those documents are written by AI, those reports will also be available here for you as well. So quickly opening up a submission here. I'm going to quickly load this. There we go. So as you'd be able to see, I have a quick document here that I have submitted. So you'd be able to see a similarity analysis and as well as manipulation analysis. So what manipulation analysis is, if it checks through any character replacements, any hidden texts within the document, as well as any image that's in place in text. So it will also go through those checkings if it's enabled. So today we'll be looking into the similarity analysis. So up those. So as you can see within the document, they'd be highlighted in a couple of colors. So the ones that are highlighted in red are sentences that have 80 to 100% similarity with another work. The ones that are highlighted in blue are indication that these sentences might have been paraphrased or altered. The ones that are in green are sentences that have been matched to another work, but importantly, they have been correctly cited. So by toggling the green highlighted documents, you'll be able to just remove them within the document and within the report percentage if you want to. And to give you an idea, if you were to click on any of those sentences, you would have a sentence information box highlighted here on the right-hand side. You'll be able to see the match source from which web page or which link it's from, and as well as that sentence that has been taken from that web page per se. You have the option to exclude some sentences per se if you don't want them within the report or you don't want to include them within the report, you can exclude them. You also have the options of changing sources. So if there has been multiple sources that has been identified, you can change which source it's actually checking against. All right. Going to be looking into another submission here. So this might look like the same submission, but this submission is in fact where I have just paraphrased a couple of paragraphs in between. So there is a lot of use cases or complaints from educators where they discuss, where students sit together, discuss those responses, and then they submit very similar documents. So this is where if you were to use our archive feature. So once a document is uploaded onto a system and it is archived securely, each archived document becomes part of a growing database against all your future submissions that it's going to be comparing with. So every new document that's submitted by students is automatically checked for similarity against the entire archive and previously submitted documents. So this ensures that if a student attempts to copy work from another student's submission, the system will flag the similarities. So that's exactly what we're looking at currently. So as you'll be able to see, the percentage here is way higher because it's been detected from a previous submission, right? Finally, bringing you to the third report here. So this is a report where I've enabled AI authorship. So it will also check for similarities and also check if the document was written by any AI. So in terms of similarity here, it's only at about 19%. Quite low, I would say myself. It's a bit of a highlight about a lot of paraphrasing and altered text. But if you were to move on to AI authorship, which I've enabled for this document, it is really high. So this is actually a document that I have done using ChatGPT entirely, where I've just added a couple of sentences in between. So it'd be able to detect if this submission is written by AI. You would get a short insight on the total sentences, which number of sentences is potentially written by AI, and most importantly, the number of sentences that actually been human written as well. So this gives you a quick overview on the AI authorship feature. So the AI authorship feature, as explained by Kim earlier, uses advanced algorithm to analyze writing patterns, styles, and linguistic markers. This helps in determining whether the work is consistent with the student's previous submission or is indicating of a different author. So AI authorship helps identify these inconsistencies in writing styles and the quality. The AI prediction scores will be the percentage of sentence in the submission that have a high likelihood of being generated by AI. So I just want to also stress that it's important to stress the nuance in AI prediction, that it will never be possible to be 100% certain as a source is matching to another text that does not exist. But Inspera originalities, authoring detection focus on basically reducing any false positive. All right, so I am done with my demo today. I hope that this was resourceful for all of you listening. and I will hand it over to Kim. And if we have any questions, we can discuss them.
Thank you, Pura. In the interest of time, I'd like to say thank you, everyone. It's been quite a session with a lot of information. Probably only the first of many interactions that we will have if the interest for Inspera remains. I have answered the questions in the chat. Let's see, what about the annual fee lifetime? I think that's something that we need to discuss in a different setting. But we will be communicating further with Learn as to if there are opportunities for us to cooperate like we do with other NRENs. And I'm sure there will be if there's interest enough from the member institutions. We will be sharing the deck. I think Learn will be comfortable sharing the recording. I guess it's up to Prof. Roshan. And
yeah, we'll do that.
And if you have any questions for us, then of course, please feel free to reach out either through Learn or directly to us. We're more than happy to help. Thank you again. And I hand over to you, Prof. Roshan.
Thank you, Kim and Pura, for your detail. In fact, I was also listening, and I'm also an educator, so I am inspired by the list of different features that you have. It's pretty comprehensive, and thank you for that detailed presentation. And thank you, Kim, for accommodating our request. And I'm looking forward to working with you all and seeing how we can bring these features and solutions to our community here locally in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you. Sashini, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Roshan. And also we extend our heartfelt thanks to Kim and Pura and Ida from Inspera team for educating us about these solutions available and how we can use them. And also, I would like to thank all the participants for your interest on learning these kind of solutions. And I have seen a lot of questions coming in through chat. So it shows your interest on using this kind of technology in education. So we will be keeping in touch with you all on these kind of solutions, and also regarding, particularly regarding this solution on our next steps and all. So thank you very much for joining. So we can conclude our webinar today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.